Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nick Kroll Show. Today I have James Hobson here, owner of Spider Chalk. James, how are you?
Great, man.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
So I have to throw a little disclaimer out there first. I have been using Spider Chalk since I was probably about 16 years old now. And recently, when I started my business, RN Fitness, I reached out to James a few times because I was I've always loved your product, loved your company, and I wanted to hopefully work with you guys. And when you got back to me about doing the giveaways, I was pretty excited about that. And we've been talking more and more, and we got him on the show for you. So I've also read your story. That was awesome. Can you kind of walk us through how Spider Chalk started and all the things that you've done to get to this point?
Yes, I owned two CrossFit gyms. We started our first CrossFit gym in 2008. Obviously, in a CrossFit gym, you use tons of chalk, except for I got super annoyed in the first year or two because a big portion of my job was sweeping up chalk, putting it back in the bucket, cleaning up messes everywhere. We use Bloks like every other CrossFit. And after a couple of years of that, I decided that we were going to ban chalk from our CrossFit gym. Of course, people freaked out. We're going to slip off the bar. It's dangerous. So I said, well, fine. I'll look around and see if there's another solution where I don't have to vacuum up $5 worth of chalk every night in my gym. And I found out about this stuff called liquid chalk. And liquid chalk was really cool because it's powder chalk that's suspended in an alcohol solution. So when the alcohol dries, it leaves a little bit of chalk on your hands. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is great. So I bought a bunch of it, started using it in my gym, banned powder chalk, banned block chalk, forced everyone in our gym to use liquid chalk. They hated it, but after a couple of years, they really had no other choice, and they started to enjoy it. So that's how we got into the liquid chalk. At this time, I hadn't started Spider Chalk, but for about 5 or 6 years while I owned this CrossFit gym, no one was allowed to bring chalk into my gym. I had liquid chalk, and I gave it out to our members. And at the end of 8 years owning that CrossFit gym, we sold it and we moved away. We sold our house, sold our cars, sold everything we owned, and we bought a 42-foot long fifth wheel. I had 3 kids at the time, and I told my wife, I said, I'm done working 75-hour weeks. We're going to travel across the country in this RV with the kids, go to all 48 states and basically retire. And during that time, I said, well, just to make a little bit of extra income, I'm going to make my own liquid chalk, brand it, and then sell it. And she thought that was a great idea. So we're going to be in this RV. We're going to be staying in different RV parks, and we're going to be selling liquid chalk. Except here is the problem. We couldn't find anyone in the United States that was willing to make liquid chalk for us. We were going to be in an RV. Obviously, we can't make it. So we called every manufacturer that we could find in every state. Page 9 of Google, we're calling out little mom and pop shops saying, would you guys make liquid chalk for us? Put our logo on it, and then we'll just be the marketing team behind it. Mm-hmm. They all said no. So we started making liquid chalk, and that's how Spider Chalk got born, was the fact that no one else was willing to make it, and we were the only people who would make it. So going back to that RV trip, we spent a couple months in the RV driving around. It's very hard to make chalk while you're in an RV. We figured that out pretty quick. And also the fact that we have 3 kids, and a lot of our time was spent changing diapers, reading bedtime stories, feeding the kids, bathing the kids, putting jammies on the kids. Eventually we flushed the idea for the RV, and we said, you know what, let's just go all in on this business. As the business was growing and growing, we decided to just forsake the idea of traveling across the country and just focus on the business.
That's awesome. So was there a reason why they would not make the chalk for you? I feel like that's not a crazy request.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why they wouldn't do it, because they're lazy. All the other manufacturers in America are lazy. They get stuck into one thing. We make, hand sanitizer. I go, well, great. You guys got the facilities, you've got the bottle fillers, you've got the staff. Why don't you make liquid chalk? Oh, we don't do that. We make hand sanitizer. And I remember having these conversations and say, but you could though. You could, couldn't you? We'll send you the stuff and you just mix it up. Nope, don't want to do it. I said, okay, fine. So we called the second guy, the third guy, the 20th guy, the 30th guy, the 40th guy, all same situation. None of them wanted to spend a few minutes tweaking their little machine to make something different. It's just sheer laziness is what it is.
a lot of determination on your part, getting down that far into people. And finally you're like, hey, I'm just going to make this. So how was, I mean, making the formulas? I have no idea how to make chalk. I know there's a little bit, I know the ingredients, but do you just kind of dump all that together and mix it up and you got your chalk?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think
so. Right now, if you go to Amazon and you type in liquid chalk, there's probably, I mean, if I had to pick a number, there's over 100 companies right now that make liquid chalk. Most of them sell it either off their little website that they made themselves, or they sell it on Amazon. Everyone's trying to get a little piece of the action. And what they do is they take powder chalk that they get from Dick's Sporting Goods or somewhere else, and they put it in a blender, and they add a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to it. And then a lot of people add like a drop or two of essential oils so that it has mint flavoring or citrus flavoring. And they blend it up in their little blender, and then they dump it in the bottle. And that's the extent of their formula, which they always call proprietary, a professional grade. You know, everyone's got the little keywords, of course, you know this. And then they get a little sticker and they stick it on a bottle and they call it liquid chalk. That's essentially what the Chinese do as well. 90+% of the liquid chalk market is out of China. You can tell because if you look at the bottle, it's very distinct, the bottles they use. The labels are all identical. And also there's little things on the bottle that are dead giveaways that the Chinese don't understand. Our culture is a little bit different than theirs. For instance, milliliters. We don't do milliliters, we do ounces, right? So you would never put milliliters on there because in America, we don't even understand what a milliliter is. So when the Chinese, though, of course, they do the metric system. So when you order 8 ounces of chalk, they're going to put 225 milliliters on the bottle. And that's a dead giveaway that you didn't make that because you didn't design that label, right?
Right.
They did. And there's also many, many other little giveaways. So going back to the formula, it's very basic. The Chinese kind of do the same thing. They take alcohol, they take chalk, they take a little bit of rosin, which is probably I don't know what they're putting in it, but it's probably pretty bad. And they mix it up and they dump it in a bottle. What we did was I approached these cosmetic companies and I said, hey guys, you guys make 700 plus different products. We want to come out with a liquid chalk product. They immediately put you on the phone with their chemists, and they have a whole team of chemists in a huge laboratory. And they go, we're going to come up with a formula for you. The reason they do that is because they hope that once they come up with this formula, you're going to have them do it, right? You're going to buy your ingredients from them and maybe even get them to mix up portions of it for you so they can make some money. We didn't do that. We just got the formula from them and then we did it ourselves. But the formula that they came up with had 8 ingredients. All other liquid chalks have 3 ingredients: alcohol, chalk, and thickener, right? 3 ingredients: alcohol, chalk, and thickener. And then sometimes they'll put a scent in there, so 4. We have 8 ingredients. They came up with a couple of different things that we could put in it. We call them bonding agents, but things that help the chalk stick to your hand. Non-toxic, natural bonding agents. And now we have several more that we use because during the pandemic, a lot of those we couldn't get our hands on. So our formula is very, very, very complex. And there's this thing called order of addition. Order of addition is if you have 8 ingredients and you just dump them all in at the same time, you're going to get a totally crappy product. Everything has to be done at a certain time frame, in a certain amount, in a certain order. If you mix up that order and start switching things around, the whole formula changes. It's very, very sensitive. Again, like when you get into the science of this, it's a little bit like wine. The average person will drink red wine and they go, oh, that's great. And then you pull the bag off it and it's a $3 bottle of wine, right? That's the liquid chalk industry. The farther you get into this, you realize that there are some drastic differences between our brand and other people's brands. I'm not sure that the average Joe that's deadlifting like 225 can really tell a difference between our formula and what the Chinese are making with their 3 ingredients, or, you know, Power Grip, or, you know, whatever other grip, Monkey Grip, and the other 500 guys that have gotten into the business. But it's definitely some science to it. I come from a background where I care a lot about formula. I care a lot about performance. I care a lot about innovation. And so because of that, I was not going to put something on the market that was just 3 ingredients. I don't want to be a hype man that tries to sell something that's not better. It has to be clearly better. And so that's what we came up with.
And you say you come from a background where you like care about that stuff. Did you go to college and study like the science or whatever?
Yes.
Do you have a degree?
Yeah, I do. I went to UGA and I studied artificial intelligence. So I did computer science first, cognitive science, and then I did artificial intelligence. This was back in 2004. AI at the time was video games. So I started programming computers when I was 15. As I got into college, everybody at that time was doing computer science. I branched off and did artificial intelligence back when there was no one doing AI. MIT and Caltech were really the only two schools that did AI. And UGA happened to start an artificial intelligence program, so I joined that. And of course, what is AI about, right? AI is about improving computers so that they can think for themselves and come up with an optimal algorithm to get whatever the desired result is. And I was instantly intrigued with that when I was in college. And AI has come a long way in 20 years.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you see some of these cars, they're driving themselves now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What got you? So did you always exercise when you were in college and stuff like that, or growing up? Did you always exercise? Like, where did that come from? That passion for lifting?
So I started playing sports when I was 5 years old. My dad was a huge athlete, still one of the best athletes I've ever met. He got me into baseball, basketball, football. I was on swim team in high school, ran track in high school. When I went to UGA, I met my wife playing softball. We had a championship softball team. She joined that team. We had a championship flag football team. She joined that. I played every sport. I'm huge into CrossFit. You know that from owning the CrossFit gym.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've gotten really into pickleball. And pickleball is my newest sport. It's amazing. It has a really silly name. It turns off a lot of young people. They should have called it like Powerball or Slam Ball or something really cool. Because
I've played at one of the gyms I grew up going to. He had a whole pickleball court and everything, and it was so fun. He had tournaments going and everything. It was awesome.
Oh man, when you play with really young, really athletic people in pickleball, you get that thing slammed at you at like 50 miles an hour, and you're slamming it right back at them, and it's intense.
Yeah, it's almost like a smaller version of tennis. Like, it's very fast paced. It's like a little more than ping pong, but a little less than tennis.
And it's the fastest growing sport in America right now. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of people under 40 that play it, although I do feel like that there's more people under 40 that are getting into it. So between the CrossFit, still play basketball. I don't really play baseball anymore because I grew up playing it, so I hate it. Any sport you're forced to play when you grow up, you hate it.
Yep.
If your parents make you do something for 20 years, you eventually despise it. It's the only sport I told my kids. I said, you can play any sport you want, but you can't play baseball because I'm not sitting through 2-hour games.
That's funny. I actually did the same thing. I never wanted to play. I grew up playing hockey. I really enjoyed it. But my father really wanted me to play baseball. So I did my freshman year of high school. And I was like, never again. This was terrible. I hate this sport. I don't want to play this anymore. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
As far as working out, though, I started working out in college like everybody. I was like 165 pounds and 6'2". It's like a bean pole. I mean, like most guys that are really lean, I had abs and, I was maybe like 10%, 12% body fat, but most of that was just like bone with a little bit of muscle on it, And then when I got into college, I was like, man, I'm going to bulk up. So I started taking creatine like all the other guys. Started hitting the bench press really big and doing leg press machine, just bodybuilder type stuff. And then what happened was after a few years of doing that, I became a personal trainer, started training other people in like bodybuilding style, the lat pull downs and the hammer curls and all the stuff that you see those like meathead guys at the gym do. And then I got really into sports again in my 20s. And I realized that I had lost all my athleticism. I had packed on like 25, 30 pounds of muscle, but then I went to go throw a football and it looked like a gorilla. Like I couldn't throw a football without looking like a goofball. And catching it, the same thing. It would hit my hands and ricochet off. And I thought, whoa, what's happened to me? I'm a 25-year-old like meathead now. And so a buddy of mine said, you got to watch this video. And it's this video. If you have YouTube, go to YouTube and type in Nasty Girls. And Nasty Girls is this workout from like 1999. And it's these 3 little tiny girls doing this crazy hardcore CrossFit workout. And they called it the Nasty Girls workout. It's these 3 girls. And as soon as I saw that video, I said, oh, that's it. I'm doing that. So I called the CrossFit gym down the street from me and joined like the next week, became a trainer, got certified, opened up my gym, all that within like a year. And then once I started doing CrossFit, I got my athleticism back. I actually dropped a good bit of muscle. It was like what I call polo shirt muscle, which means that like you look good in a polo shirt, but it has real no purpose other than that.
Yeah.
You can't throw a baseball. You can't catch a football. You can't run a 100-meter sprint under like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But you look really good in a pair of jeans,
Yeah.
And then CrossFit's the opposite of that. It's like I trimmed down to like 180 again, 6'2", 180. But all of a sudden I could jump higher, run faster, had my quickness and agility back. So that's what got me into CrossFit. As I said, I just want to be an athlete again. I want to feel like young and athletic. I don't want to feel old and like bulky. So that was my transition into CrossFit.
So I personally do more of like a power building split. I like more of the bodybuilding, the powerlifting. And you hear, I'm not against CrossFit though, just for the record, not against CrossFit, but you hear a lot of these people like, oh, it's so bad for your back, and like you do see some of the form sometimes. You're like, hey, that's kind of bad. Like, do you try to incorporate like better form in that? I mean, how does doing CrossFit like benefit you in all those ways that other people say it's so counterproductive?
Yeah. So, and here's what's really interesting. I own 2 CrossFits, so I'm a little bit partial to CrossFit. At one point I stopped doing CrossFit and I wrote a long blog article about why I gave up CrossFit. And in that article, I gave up CrossFit because CrossFit has a tendency for people to make that their sport. They train CrossFit, they think about CrossFit, 6 hours a day CrossFit, they diet for CrossFit, and then they give up everything else in their life. They're not out hiking. They're not riding their bicycle. Everybody has all this workout gear in their garage outside of CrossFit gear, bikes, roller blades, whatever stuff you're into. And they never use it because they're so busy into CrossFit. And I got into CrossFit to the point where I had given up a lot of my sports. So I fell into that dark hole of CrossFit. And so I had given up CrossFit for a certain point because it was detracting me from playing real sports and being social and getting outside of this little bubble. So it has a tendency to suck people in. So as partial as I am to CrossFit, I also gave up CrossFit for a while. So I have a good a perspective
balance
on this. Yes. Now here's my perspective on this. And you've probably heard this said from other people, but a lot of the injuries that come from CrossFit are overuse injuries. When you deadlift 4 times a week, it doesn't matter if you're doing 40% of your max or 30% of your max. It doesn't matter if you're doing 80 reps or you're doing 3 sets of 5. You can't hammer the back 4 days a week. You just can't do it. The posterior chain has to recover along with the rest of the body. Shoulder is the #1 injury in CrossFit. I tore my labrum doing CrossFit. I have back injury right now. I have complete degeneration in my spine, not from CrossFit, but from playing sports. So there's tons of injuries that come along with CrossFit. Why did I get injured in CrossFit? Because I used my shoulders 6 days a week. There was never a day in CrossFit where I didn't use my shoulders ever for 8 years.
When you said shoulder, I was going to say, is there a single CrossFit movement that you can do without your shoulders?
Back squat.
Yeah, I mean, every video you see of someone doing CrossFit, they're up here like this, or they're swinging something. Wow.
And then I did everything that they tell you to do. I did the crossovers. I bought the little rubber bands where you do the crossovers and you build up your shoulder joint, and that helped me recover from my labrum. I never had surgery, but here's the other thing about the injury in CrossFit is if you play basketball for 10 plus years, you're going to get an injury, period. I got hurt more playing basketball in 6 months than I did in 8 years of CrossFit. Those guys, every time I went up for a rebound, some dude came on the back of me with an elbow in the head. You're going to get that rebound, but you're going to pay for it. I remember having these conversations. I drive to the basket, everybody sticks their leg out, and I trip and hit the floor, and they just turn around and walk away, take the ball out. They don't care. You might have just shattered your knee. They don't care. They'll rip your ACL in a second. These guys don't care about you. On the baseball field, the last year I played baseball, I got hit. My parents have this on video. Every single game the entire year, I got hit by a pitch. And one guy said, "You crowd the plate." I said, "Dude, I'm 2 inches closer to the plate than everyone else on my team. And you decided to hit me with a 75-mile-an-hour fastball." And that was in their mind.
That's a great
So
point.
To tell me that like CrossFit's any more dangerous than soccer, every soccer player I know has torn either an ACL, an MCL, or both. Every runner I know I get with them, and every time we do a mile or a 5K or whatever, all they can talk about is their injuries. They keep buying thicker shoes. They buy more braces. They've got radiation therapy. They've got infrared therapy. They're constantly at the chiropractor 3 days a week, but all they do is run. So when people say that about CrossFit, what they're trying to say is like, it's so dangerous to do that. But what they really need to understand is it's dangerous to play any sport, any sport. Number one injury in pickleball is tendonitis. Golf elbow, tennis elbow. You can't play sports at a high level without injuries, man. And that goes for CrossFit too, you know?
I love that perspective. I personally have never thought of it that way. I feel like a lot of people haven't thought of it that way, but it's so true. I mean, growing up playing hockey, I've had my shoulder was popped out multiple times from hitting the boards. You know, my father broke a collarbone playing hockey. I mean, every sport that you play, you're going to have injuries along the way. I mean, look at the professionals. They're always injured. Football, hockey,
Always.
basketball, baseball, they're always injured. And I think that's a great perspective that we oftentimes kind of take for granted in the gym. It's like, oh yeah, it's just because you're doing CrossFit. Like if you're doing anything physical, eventually your body kind of is like, hey, you can't do it perfectly every single time. And you can't give yourself enough rest every single time. I love that perspective.
So I did go to the doctor. This was the scariest moment of my life. I did the open workout in 2017. It's a CrossFit open workout, and it had handstand push-ups in it. And I was fatigued, and I'm doing handstand push-ups, and I have a real thick foam mat under my head because I just refuse to slam my head into the floor. So I'm hitting this foam mat, coming up, doing handstand push-ups, and I'm repping out like sets of 10. And it's the very end of the workout. My arms are giving out. So I land on the foam pad, and I have to rest for a second. And then I do 3 more, and then I rest for a second. Next day, I wake up, and I can't move my head, and I can't swallow, and I can't chew, and I can't brush my teeth. That was 7 days. I sat in a recliner with like a traction device on my neck, and I couldn't swallow other than like small sips of water. I couldn't brush my teeth. So I go to the doctor. They do an x-ray, and he says, you have no discs left in your neck. All the vertebrae have joined together, and now you have bone spurs coming out the back of your neck, right? That's the nerve. The bone spurs are hitting the nerve. That's what triggered your lockup. You weren't able to open your mouth. You weren't able to chew. He goes, once that bone moved a millimeter and hit that nerve, your whole body locked up. And I'm like almost about to cry at this time. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my whole life is ahead of me. I'm such a great athlete. And I'm going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. He said, no. Like don't worry about that. He said, give it a few more days. You have inflammation. The inflammation will go down and you'll be fine. I said, well, what caused all of this stuff in my neck and my back? And he goes, sports. You wakeboard, you're making jumps off the wake, you're rock climbing, you're falling off 40-foot rocks, you're playing sand volleyball, you're playing indoor volleyball, you're playing grass volleyball 3 days a week, you're playing pickleball, you're doing CrossFit. My whole life, every minute of my life when I'm not working revolves around sports. And it has since I was 5 years old. There's never been a point in my life where I didn't play sports, multiple sports, year round, indoor, outdoor, rain, shine, any sport, you know. We lived on the lake. I had a boat. I was jet skiing and wakeboarding and kneeboarding and doing everything that you can do on the lake every day.
And that's impactful
going to the lake
too.
every day. You know? And so he said, look, man, like you've lived 3 lifetimes. The average person plays sports twice a week or 3 times a week. You've lived 3 lifetimes. Your spine has endured 3 or 4 times the impact of a normal athlete. And it finally gave up. So there's just no more spine left. So injuries are a normal part of sports. I still play sports every day. I mean, I'm not going to quit. Eventually I'll have to have my spine fused together. But it doesn't scare me, you know. I mean, I know enough. I can rehab myself, and I can go through the mobility drills, and I can rehab the injuries. So I'm not worried about it. And people know I come from a CrossFit background, and the first thing they mutter under their breath is, well, if you hadn't done CrossFit. No, that's not true. The basketball, the volleyball, the wakeboarding, the rock climbing, the pickleball, the tennis, all of that would have done the same thing. Let's be honest, it would have done it.
So you kind of answered my first question about how you deal with the injury. Like it happens, you kind of go through the mobility, you take it light, you gradually increase from there. But you mentioned you have 3 kids. Are you conscious of the sports they do because you know how many injuries it can lead to? Like, do you say, hey guys, we got to ease up, or are you like, hey, they'll make it through?
No, they fall out of trees. We go to the emergency room constantly. We have 4 kids. We have 4 kids now, and they're just the craziest bunch of hooligans you've ever met. They crash on their bikes, and they every day there's a kid who falls off a tree onto concrete or falls down the steps, and his whole face is scratched off. And it's a miracle that DFACS hasn't come to our house, because if you go to our kids' school and you line our 4 kids up, it's like a cage match. They just got done with an MMA fight, and just blood and noses and ears. And, it's just a constant like bloody mess in our house, not because we're irreverent parents, but because our kids are always pushing the envelope. They want to climb at 6 years old. They want to get to the top of a pine tree that's 60, 70 feet high. We say, okay, get to this certain point in the tree, and then that's as far as you can go. But all that makes them do is want to go higher. So as soon as we turn our back, they just go 3 more branches. Same thing with a bike. We live on a few acres. We have a big hill in the back. We made a mountain bike track. Our kids will come down the mountain bike track at like 30 miles an hour, and they have no idea what they're doing on a bike. They hit a root, go flying. When I was a kid, we had dirt bikes. Every kid I know had dirt bikes. Every kid I know crashed their dirt bike and tore a collarbone, or, it's just being a kid, when you were growing up, man, how many kids had casts?
Oh, yeah, I was one of them. I had not a cast, but a sling. I separated my shoulder a few times growing up. I had a sling.
That's right.
It's crazy.
That's right. And when it comes to sports, we coach our kids in their sports. I coach. So I'm actually the opposite of most coaches. I'm like, you go harder, you go faster, you be more aggressive. We had a kid's soccer game last week, and I got really mad and threw down my clipboard and lost my cool. But that's because I didn't think the kids were trying hard enough. And I don't care about the score, but I do care about effort. Absolutely. And I felt like they didn't want to win as bad as I wanted to win. It wasn't even my game. I'm like, how can you not care?
It's like youth
They're
soccer.
like, well, afterwards we're going for ice cream. And I'm like, forget about ice cream. You want to win,
Oh, that's awesome. I'm a big believer in, you got to kind of push your limits. You got to, if you want to be good or you want to be great, you can't just do the bare minimum. You have to put the effort in all the time. There's so much discipline that comes from working out and, being physically fit. And especially if you're talking about kids in sports, you have to have that discipline to keep moving forward. As a coach, how do you teach a younger group of kids? I don't know how young are you going?
Okay. So we've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so we coach the 9, the 7, and the 6. 3-year-old doesn't play sports yet.
So how do you go about like instilling discipline in a kid like that? Because I feel like that's got to be a challenge.
It is. And kids are, in my opinion, kids are a reflection of the parents. So if they grow up around a father who is working out a lot, very dedicated, very disciplined, has the right mindset as far as like, when I play sports, I play to win. I don't goof around. I don't want to waste an hour of my life goofing around. When I play sports, I want to win. And then after sports, I'm a great sport. I go up, hug the guy. Hey, man, thanks for playing. Like, you had some great shots. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy it when I win, and then I have a great attitude, because then I can go up to the guy and say, like, hey, man, you had a couple of good shots there, and I mean it. Most of my shots were better, but I'll still give you, those 2 shots where you scored a couple points. But when the kids grow up seeing that, it inherently kind of comes to them that, like, okay, there's only one way to play sports, and that's to be serious about it and to win. And if you grow up with a dad who kind of goes in there and goofs around a lot, you kind of pick up that mentality a good bit. And I tell you from coaching, in the very first practice of the year, I know who has what kind of parent. And they may not be the best athletes, but it's the mentality. It's the mindset of like, once they blow that whistle, that kid will run himself to the point where he throws up. And everybody else will run until they get a little bit tired. And then they go, Coach, I want to come out. Coach, can I sit? You've been in the game for 2 minutes. They also want water. Kids are weird about water. Oh, Coach, I'm so thirsty. I go, you played 90 seconds and it's 70 degrees outside. How can you want water? I don't get it, and that comes from CrossFit. We don't allow you to drink in the workouts, but my kids, on the other hand, they're very serious about it. They really want to win. The only thing that I need to work on with them is when they lose, they have bad attitudes.
I hate losing so much. There's a few videos of me smashing a hockey stick more than a few occasions over the boards, over the ice. Something I've heard many times that you pretty much hit on was I listened to another podcast, Dr. John Deloney show. He's like a mental health guy. He talks a lot about kids, which I don't have any yet. We want some kids, but he says all the time, you can talk to your kids till you're blue in the face, but they're going to do what you're doing. They're going to pick up on your behaviors. They're not going to just watch you do something and then you tell them, hey, no, don't do that. They saw dad do that or mom do that, so they want to go do that now. And you pretty much hit on that exact same point, but it's interesting that do as I say, not as I do. Cause I heard that all the time growing up from my father, do as I say, not as I do. And I was like, well, I don't know. I want to try this, but I turned out all right.
But think about this though, Nick, you start hiring people and those people say, okay, I'm going to be the greatest worker. And they usually work for a couple of hours or the first week, and they're really good workers. Mm-hmm. And then after that, all of a sudden they start showing up 5 minutes late to work, or they start checking their phone a lot, or they go, hey, my sister's in town tomorrow. Can I have the day off? Well, that's a reasonable request. But now their mom wants to come in town, or now their son has a dentist appointment, or whatever it is. Now all of a sudden they start slacking off. And you notice like there's a decrease in output. And all of a sudden, if you're letting them get away with it, right? If you're allowing your employee to take those boundaries that you set in the beginning and move those boundaries, that's the new boundary. Same thing with kids, right? So it's kids, it's employees, it's your wife. All of a sudden your wife says, hey, I want to do this. Well, that's fine. Go spend $500 on a girl's trip. Then all of a sudden now it's a monthly girls trip. Well, wait a second. I thought that was a one time a year thing, and people push the boundaries. And that's because what most people, they don't want to have the killer mentality. They don't want to have the self-sacrifice. They want the easiest path. And they need someone there who's higher on the success level to say, whoa, the leadership level. They say, whoa, wait a second. That's not what's best for you. Spending $500 a month on a woman's trip, you and your girls getting together at the beach once a month, that's not really good for our family budget. Now, that will crush her for a little while. And then you say, well, I understand you're disappointed because all the other girls are getting to go because their husbands won't say this is a terrible idea. They're scared of their wives.
Yeah.
And so they say, I don't want to step on her toes and tell her what to do. Oh, I'll tell my wife very easily what's best for the family. I'm in charge of the family. I tell my kids, this is what's best for you. Candy for breakfast, not a good idea. Other parents may allow that. I don't allow that, and same thing with my employees. When someone says, hey, my sister's in town, can I have the day off? No, you can't. You need to work because you need money. You came to me because you need money. You got a car payment, you got insurance, you got a couple kids, you got a mortgage. You need money. Absolutely. Taking days off to go mess around with your sister, go shopping at the mall, that's not okay with me. Like, you need to work. If you don't want to work, just tell me and let's part ways. But like, someone has to be the bad guy. And that's part of like me being in the dad role, is that like the farther I've gotten into being a father, the better leader I've become in outside of the family, meaning for my employees, with my friends. Oh, I want to goof around and go drinking this weekend. Nah, I don't drink. So you guys go ahead. I'm going to go to bed at 8:30. I wake up at 5 a.m. It's just the way that you run your life, and I feel like as you get older and you are around more successful people, you don't have to explain these concepts. It's what they already do. When I'm around very successful guys, typically they're in bed early. They don't drink. They're not out partying. They have good control over their family. They're great leaders. They have respect from people in the community. So these are things that like everybody else is goofing around. Everybody else, people kind of laugh at them behind their back. But the guys that I hang out with, they're not like that.
Right.
And so it's
especially when it comes to running a company too, that discipline. Now, I mean, we were talking about discipline in your kids, but now you got to kind of instill discipline in your employees. And again, they're going to see, oh, hey, the boss is working his ass off over here, so we're going to work harder too. How do you notice that? Like, I don't know how involved you are as owner operator still. I know it started out more that way. Is it still kind of like that?
Sort of, kind of. We do a lifestyle business. So I only work a few hours a week so that I can live my life. I want to spend my time with my kids. I want to spend time playing sports. And because of that, I only work a few hours a week. And I'll admit that I am the bottleneck for the company, meaning we could be double the size that we are, revenue-wise, volume-wise, if it wasn't for me. And so I hold the company back purposely. I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to work 60, 70-hour weeks. One of the most disappointing things about my business is that I meet other guys that are business owners and I say, oh, that's great, man. Let's go out on the lake. Let's take my boat out. Let's go wakeboard together. Oh, I can't, I got to work. Well, you want to play golf? You want to play pickleball? Oh, I can't, I got to work. Well, man, they're a slave to their business. So they opened up a business and now it's just another job. They're just a slave to their business. Most guys never figure out a way to get to the point where they can enjoy their life. They work and they work. And sometimes I feel like, Nick, there's so much validation for men in their job. They meet someone and the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, well, what do you do for a living? And then you go, well, I own this business and it's a really big business. And they're thinking to themselves, like, now I get to brag about the size of my company. And guys will tell me all the time, I have 50 employees. And I go, congratulations, that's wonderful. Do you want to go out on the boat? Oh, I can't. Well, then what was the point of having all those 50 people then? Maybe you should hire a few more.
Yeah,
and so you can have some free time.
I love that topic and just that mindset, because I'm the same way. Like I hope to scale this business bigger. I hope to scale this podcast bigger, the training I've been doing bigger. I would love to have all that, but I want it to be efficient enough to where I don't need to do this 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I want to spend time with my family. I want to watch the kids that we should have grow up. I want to spend time with my family. I say all the time, all I want to do, I want to wake up, work out, shoot guns off my deck and live my life. That's all I'm looking for. I don't want to be a multimillionaire. And I feel like so many people, especially in today's world, are getting so hung up in the dollar signs, and you don't need to be a multimillionaire to have a great, happy life.
So last deer season, I shot 6 deer. I shot 8, harvested 6 in my backyard, on the lake in my backyard, which was awesome.
This year, that's pretty cool though. If you're a hunter, that's awesome.
You don't hunt?
No, I just target practice.
Everyone down here hunts. I mean, obviously we're in the South and everybody's got land. So deer season, you never see men. I mean, they're just gone for like 3 months out of the year. And then turkey season, now it's turkey season. So everybody's gone now too. But between hunting and fishing down here, that's pretty much the predominant hobby for most guys. And they're really big into it. Everybody's got a couple hundred acres and they've got food plots and they go out there and they get those 4 bucks that they've been waiting on every year. But I got 6 deer last year. And it's funny to me that, like, even though the business is still running, I still have time to go hunt. I still have time to go fish. And there is a certain point where I have to give up these things, right? Like right now, we've got orders stacked to the ceiling. We have for a while. And I feel guilty. I mean, there's days when, like, I'm playing pickleball and I'll play 3 games. And then I look at the clock and I go, all right, 45 minutes is up. I got to go, And I hate it because everyone's going, come on, man, stay. Let's play some more. And I'm going, nope. I want to get it all in, but I have to be very intelligent in how I do it. I get an hour at the gym. I get an hour at pickleball, take a quick shower, cook, eat, I mean, everything has to be like very regimented in order to fit it all in.
Work-life balance.
The work-life balance, that's right. And I know there's seasons where I have to work a lot more and there's seasons where I don't have as much to do. And so I get to play around a little bit more. But we've also built the business to the point where I don't have to work as much because we've streamlined things a good bit. So we've invested in some technology and we can do things very quickly, just innovation on the production side of things. Whereas 2 years ago, the same order might have taken me 7 hours. Now it takes me 2.5 for the same order to pack it and ship it. So we've made strides in that. And I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. I'll tell you this, once my kids are older and they start hanging out with their buddies and they're gone from the house all the time, when they hit their like teen years, I will work more.
Yeah.
The business is not as big as it could be. And I hate to see the potential of it being wasted. But again, what are my priorities? Like, I have to look back and say, my kids are my number one priority. My family is my number one priority. And if the business isn't making as much money as it could, I'm okay with that for a period.
Right. Yeah. But you, especially, I feel like you have that mentality of, hey, I could be better. I could be better. I could be better. I feel like that hurts a little bit when you're like, hey, this could be better. Yeah. But then you got to remember, hey, this is for the family right now. Could you take us through some of your products? I mean, I know you got the Black Widow chalk that we were originally talking about. That's the liquid chalk. You kind of got the Mega Bloks, and now you got the White Widow going. How is all that? And what was the differences in like the Black Widow versus the White Widow?
Yeah. So our formula, because it's so different, originally it got really bad reviews, like a lot of things that are different. Uh, our original liquid chalk, which is called Spider Chalk liquid chalk, we had a 2-ounce bottle, 8-ounce bottle. It's a little black bottle. It's got yellow writing on it. You guys have, a lot of people know about it. We released that. It was very thin. I don't like really overly thick liquid chalks. It was real thin. It had a little bit of chalk in it, a lot of rosin, and it stuck to your hand really good. So it made a real thin layer. Almost looked like you had taken chalk paint and like sprayed it on your hand. It's a real thin layer. A lot of people didn't like it. Oh, I don't like it. It doesn't have enough chalk. And one of the reviews said it's very watered down. It's like someone took regular liquid chalk and just watered it down. Well, that's not what we did. I personally didn't like it when you put so much on there. It looked like, a chalk bomb had exploded all over the room because you squirted it in your hand and dripping everywhere, and it's all over your clothes. It's on the back of your hand. Let me tell you, you don't need chalk on the back of your hand because you don't grip anything with the back of your hand. So when I see pictures of people with chalk all over their back of their hand and their arm, I think, what's this guy doing? So that was our original formula. Black Widow came out, and we said, okay, we can make it a little bit thicker, add a little bit more chalk. And then the biggest difference was we came out with this type of rosin that's super rare. We have to order it and import it, and it's super expensive, but it is like the stickiest stuff in the world. I mean, you could like put a board against a wall with this stuff. I mean, it's like liquid nails, but like the organic version of that. And it makes the chalk stick to your hand. And that's particularly interesting for CrossFit because in CrossFit, there's so much grinding. You're doing pull-ups, you're grinding on deadlifts, you're grinding. So that chalk grinds off just from the knurling on the bar or the pull-up bar. So we wanted something that had a lot more tackiness to it, not sticky on the hand, but sticky to the chalk. So we have your original, it's very thin, very liquidy, a little bit of chalk. Black Widow, a little more chalk, super sticky. And we had that for 5 or 6 years. All of a sudden this year, we private label a lot of stuff. We're manufacturers, so we make our own stuff, but we private label for other people. A lot of big brands we private label for. We had a big label call us and said, we want to private label something. Can you come up with a new product? So we sent them 15 or 20 samples. They picked the one they liked the best. We made a whole bunch of it, shipped it out to them. And I said, man, this stuff is really good. Like, I'm not letting this go to waste. So I said, I'm going to use this under our brand for our stuff. I called it White Widow. Sent it out, got horrible reviews, terrible reviews. Everybody hated it.
Really?
Again, because it's so different. And we revamped it, and we went the complete opposite direction on that formula. This is White Widow. You take like 5 pounds of chalk, and you add a little bit of alcohol, and then you start taking rosin, and you dump about the same amount of rosin as there as you do chalk. So it's about 1 to 1, which means that it's so freaking sticky. It's like, don't put your hands together because then they'll just, and it's so thick. It comes out like toothpaste. It's got a bunch of rosin in it. Too much rosin, honestly, for my taste. But we sent that out. People loved it. So, ultimately we're a company. We have to make money. So we sell it on Amazon, and that's the only place we sell it.
That's that last version of what you just said is what it is now, though, right?
Yeah.
And people like that better.
So essentially White Widow is like, it's like toothpaste. It comes out in like a paste, and it's got so much daggum rosin in it that like, I wouldn't even use it, me personally. It's not my favorite. I think it has too much rosin in it, but people really like this stuff. And here's the thing, when you own a company is like, there's what you like and there's what everyone else likes. So you have to be very sensitive to that, right? Like your 5-inch shorts.
Yeah. That's a big one. They're coming. Everybody kept saying, oh man, I want a little bit shorter inseam, a little bit shorter. And I personally was like, I don't know about, like, I don't like that, but everybody kept asking. So they're on their way. That was another one. And we have those white tanks. They're a incredible material. When I made these, I was so proud of myself. I was so happy. I tried it on. I was like, this is awesome, and then I put them out. I was like, oh, these are going to sell like that. I still have some. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do people not love these? Like, these are incredible. But it's, you got to, people like what they like, you like what you like, and you kind of learn and you adapt as you go. I made the stringers because that's what people kept asking for. I was never a stringer guy. People wanted them, made them. They sold like crazy.
That's so weird, man. I don't know a single guy that wears stringers. We just run in different groups, Yeah. It's like, there's just so many diverse people out there. And And then that's true. Like when you run in the CrossFit community, I know what's going to sell to CrossFit athletes. I know what they buy and I know what they want. But what I don't know is I don't know what rock climbers want. I don't know what power lifters want. I don't know what bodybuilders want. So I have to come out with products and then they test it and they tell me what they like. And I say, wow, that really surprises me. I would never think that power lifters would want something that comes out like toothpaste, but that's what they want. I mean, I don't know why. It's just what they decided they wanted. So we did it for them.
Kind of getting feedback is so difficult sometimes because you ask so many people and you get so many different answers. You almost start out further back than where you started from in the first place. Like I got more confused asking people.
Let me tell you. So we do have a couple more products. This is the best-selling product we have. This is probably no surprise for people. Is the Mega Bloks, the little blocks of chalk that we make. That took 18 months for us to figure out how to make it. It's really hard to make. No one will ever make blocks. No one's dumb enough to spend years of their life to try to figure out this process. We figured it out. It's super hard to make. It takes forever to make these blocks. We have a bunch of machines that we had to get made to make these blocks. They're the best blocks ever made out of the best chalk ever made. Our chalk, we just got new chalk. It's double refined. It's the cleanest, most pure chalk on the planet. Imagine drinking like $1,000 bottle of wine. That's what this is. This is the Ferrari of chalk. I've tried chalk from every country in the world that makes chalk. It's all total crap compared to this. I love it. It's the best chalk. We smash it into block form, and we can't make it fast enough. We keep hiring people. We keep buying more machines. We can't make it fast enough. People love it. So all that time spent
downstairs. I love it.
You have a block?
Oh yeah. I have a block in my chalk bowl downstairs. It's awesome. I like it when I'm doing like heavy stuff. Like I will not deadlift with even the liquid chalk. I'll always use the block chalk. But if I'm doing like a chest, if my hands are just kind of slippery, I'll throw the liquid, the Black Widow on right now. I haven't opened up the white one yet. Gotta do that thing first. But the Black Widow, the liquid chalk, I'll use that just if my hands are sweaty, if it's a chest day, arm day, something like that. But if I'm trying to grip, I always use that block chalk. It's awesome.
So here's what's cool about the block chalk is that we make it so it's extra thick and extra dense. So it's hard to break it. The number one problem people have 2-ounce blocks is you unwrap that little thing and it just crumbles. And it just ends up powder within like a day or two. And that's the big beef that every gym has when they buy blocks. It ends up just as powder. So you buy a block, you pay all this money for a block, and eventually it just turns into powder within a day or two. And ours are super condensed.
Everywhere.
Yes. So this is my favorite story about blocks. I have a bag and a gym bag. In that I have a block. I've had the same block now for almost 3 years. I use it. Everyone in the gym uses it. So if other people are working out with me, we do group workouts. I just leave the block there. People run up and rub it on their hand. And it's gone from this really thick, like 3 inch, 2.5 inch block. Now it's down to about this. But it's lasted me so long. Here's the problem with that from a business perspective. Someone buys this block and they go, "Oh, I love it." And I go, "Well, when are you going to buy more?" And they go, "Next year."
Yeah, because I was literally going to say
the whole year.
And I still have so much of it in there. And I also I train people. I have friends over all the time. Like it gets used, but there's still so much of it in there because it is just so dense. I mean, you do this a few times on each hand and you're good for a while. I love that product. That's definitely probably my favorite one out of all of them. They're all pretty good.
Yeah. And then we came out with pouches. All the pouches in the world are made in China. We're the only people that make our own pouches. That was really important to me. Same struggle though. We couldn't find anybody to make pouches, but we ended up having a company make these little pouches for us that are identical to the pouches they make in China. And then we put a string in it. We put a clip on it, and it's a refillable, reusable chalk sock pouch. And those, when we first started, we were selling 50 units a month. Now we're up to a few hundred a month. So we're doing some pretty good volume on that. And here's the other thing, as big as our company has grown, we don't advertise and we don't market. So we don't spend a single dollar on advertising or marketing. And we never have. And and the volumes that we get are more than we can fulfill. And so there's really no reason to spend money on advertising and marketing if you can't even fulfill the orders you currently have. So it's what it is if you go to get your MBA, they have this plan and it says, do this, spend 10% of your budget on marketing every month, and they have this like business model that every company that's successful must follow, or else you'll never make it. And I know those formulas, and it doesn't work with it. We don't need it, is what I'm saying for Spider Chalk. If you make something that people love and like truly love, then you don't have to worry about spending money on advertising and marketing. It just sells itself. So that's where we're at with Spider Chalk.
How did you, I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this to where it makes the most sense. Like, was there a day, I guess, where you were like, holy, this is working? Like, what's going on right now? Because I'm sure you start out, if you have a couple blocks of chalk and you put it on a website and it's kind of slow. Maybe someone buys one here and there, unless, I don't know, maybe yours just took off. But how was that? Like, how did you go from small to growing it to where it is now?
So I remember watching your interview, and you said the thing you hate the most about RN Fitness is the sales side of things. But I come from a sales background. I started doing sales when I was 18 years old. I did door-to-door sales during the summer, and I was the number one salesperson that summer. I moved to Arkansas and Tennessee, and I was selling Bibles and educational books door-to-door. And I was working 13, 14, 15-hour days. And I hit President's Club, which means I was the number one salesperson in the whole, it was like 1,500 kids. And I sold the most of everybody. And I remember standing up in front of a room, and everyone like, you have to stand up on this desk, and everybody like applauds you, and everyone comes up to you afterwards and they go, you got to tell me what you're doing. You got to tell me what you're doing. And so I was naturally good at sales, good work ethic, very analytical. So like every sale I would analyze, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What can I improve on? And when you do that for 75, 80 hours a week for an entire summer, when you're 18, it's like jumping in the deep end, right? You learn how to sell, you learn how to talk to people. Most of it is asking questions, understanding where the need is for people. But after that, every job I had was sales, commission, because I like commission because you can make more money. And it's once somebody said you can have commission, I said, okay, that's it. I'll make tons of money because I can sell the crap out of anything. And I was very, very successful in sales. When I got out of college, I did sales, did $3.5 million in sales, made a ton of money in my early 20s for a startup company. And so I was naturally good at sales. So if you're naturally good at sales and you have an actual product, this is the other thing, Nick. Most of the time when you're doing sales for something that's pretty crappy, let's be honest.
That's literally what I'm writing down right now. Did you ever have to sell a product that you don't like?
Yes. And it stinks, but you can still do it, and you can still be really good at it. Every product has something exciting or unique about it. And mostly about sales is not about telling everybody what your product is. Most of sales is finding out their story and their perspective. What's going on with your business? How are you guys hurting? Like, how can we help? What's an inefficiency that you have? Maybe I can do something to help you become more efficient or more productive. And then that's how you say, well, our product may fit or it may not, but like, let me hear you out. And so even the worst products, eventually they'll find someone that they can help out. And if you can close that deal, you can make good money. Once I started Spider Chalk, though, it was very easy for me to sell because I called people and emailed people and said, hey, I've got this great product. It's totally different. We make it in the US. I want to send you free samples. Everyone says yes to free samples. Everyone. Once I send them free samples, I follow up with them a week, 10 days, 14 days, 21 days, 28 days, until they finally told me like, hey, listen, man, like we're not going to do it, or yes, we are going to do it. At one point I was calling, 10 or 12 businesses a day, and I had an 80% close ratio. It means 80% of the people that I called or approached said yes and ordered from us.
Wow.
And yeah, and that was really good. That's still my passion. My passion is I don't want to manufacture stuff. There's people that can do that better than me. I like selling stuff. I like creating things that are innovative and unique, and then approaching people and saying like, hey, listen, I've got something here that's so exciting, it's going to blow your mind. And most people get excited. Well, what is it? I don't know. Tell me about it. And I go, yeah, man, wait. You just wait till you hear about this. Like, it's going to rock your world. And they get really excited about it, and they order. In fact, now we get calls all the time from people that are like, hey, tell us about your company. And I'll tell them about it. And then at the end of it, I'm like, all right, let's do it. How much do you want? And they'll go, I don't know. I wasn't really ready to order, but why don't you send me? And I'm on the phone and I'm like, yep, let me write this down. Okay, I'll have that out in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And so as far as retailers go, we've got every major retailer in the United States. We're in 20 something countries now. distributed. So there's really nowhere else to go.
Yeah. It seems that way. That's awesome. I mean, great for you guys. I go back and forth very often with one of my friends who's in car sales, actually. And I'm obviously more on the side of like, I don't know, sales are kind of scummy. And he makes some really good points about it, though, is like, listen, you're not forcing people to buy something. They walked in to the dealership. They walked in asking, hey, what about this or what about that? In a way, they kind of want it too. I mean, what's your take on the whole like negativity around sales?
Yeah, so negativity around sales is a lot like CrossFit. You know, there's a few bad apples that spoil the bunch. No, let me say this. There's a few good apples in the bunch. The majority are bad. I don't like going to mattress stores. They try to sell you a mattress. I don't like going to car dealerships because they're trying to sell you a crappy car. You know, they're not in it for the right reasons. There's kind of like, here's the other thing. There's kind of blue collar sales and white collar sales, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Blue collar sales, it's a guy trying to feed his family. And from a morality or an ethical standpoint, sometimes they can put that on a shelf for a few hours in order to make that paycheck. There's an incentive there that like, okay, if I sell you a lemon, I still feed my family. My family comes first, right? So they'll sell you a truck. They know it's got a bad radiator, or they know that the engine has some type of problem, but they won't mention that, right? They won't lie. They just won't mention it, right?
And that's
ethically, their priority is with their family. Now, when you get into higher echelons of sales, what you're really doing is you're talking about large deals, right? So $1 million contracts, large deals, and long term, it doesn't do you any good to have a one-off sale. You might sell someone a car, right? And then you're thinking to yourself, I'm never going to see this dude again, you know, unless I like run into him at Walmart or something. So there's really no long-term guilt associated with that. In a lot of white collar sales, and especially the stuff that I do, you're forming a relationship. If you're great at relationships, Nick, if you have friends from high school that you're still buddies with, if you still maintain relationships from old coworkers from your previous jobs, and these people still want to hang out with you and you still touch base with them on a regular basis, take them out to lunch and break bread with them, typically you're good at sales, white collar. And that's because in the white collar world, it doesn't do you any good to rip someone off for 50,000. What's better is to say, hey, let's dip our toes in the water, make a small $1,000 order. Let's see how this goes. Over the next 10 years, they'll order $500,000 or $750,000 worth of product. But all you had to do was just say, hey, look, let's pull back this a little bit. You know, I don't want to get married. I just want to date, you know, let's just date for a little while, right? Me and you, right? Yeah, let's just date. Whoa. You know, I'm not ready for marriage yet. How about $1,000 order just to see how things go? And most people go, well, that's reasonable. Yeah, you're pulling them back and saying, no, don't do this $5,000 order. Do this $1,000 order. And then once they do that, then they call you back and go, now I'm ready for the $5,000 order. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Our retailers that we have relationships with, we've had relationships with for years and years and years. We raise our pricing, they don't flinch. You know, we're not paying for shipping, you're paying for shipping. They don't flinch because the relationship has been built. If we mess up and we ship the wrong thing, we replace it for free. If FedEx destroys our box, which they do all the time, we replace it for free. We eat it. We never ask them to pay for things. So, and that's because that's the right thing to do. And long-term, it's the best strategy. So when you're selling something to somebody, what you're really doing is you're just forming a relationship with them. If you go out grab coffee with another guy that you don't really know very well, and at the end of that, he's like, hey man, let's get together and grab coffee in a couple of weeks. You're probably going to be pretty good at sales, right? Because you're great at listening to them and talking to them and relating to them. If you're kind of a jerk and at the end the guy's like, all right, see you, and walks away and never calls you again, you know, then that probably means you're probably not going to be that great at sales.
Yeah. So, I mean, I absolutely agree that relationships are so important in sales and just life in general. I mean, relationships are one of the things that we need, we strive for as just humans. We need that connection. We need to talk. We need to socialize. And I definitely see your point there. I was going to ask you, what's your biggest sales tip, but I feel like that's probably it right there, right? Your relationships.
Yeah. Relationships and the genuine care for other people. Meaning when I approached all of these retailers, I said, hey, we've got this great product. I really want to send you some free samples. You know, I want you to try them. I want you to give them out to your athletes. At the end of a couple of weeks, I'll follow up with you and see what you think about it. And at the end of 2 weeks, occasionally someone would say, oh, we didn't like it. Okay, well, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Not, liquid chalk's not for everybody. And, not everybody's going to buy one brand. There's lots of other brands out there. But the majority of people said, yeah, we really liked it. We really enjoyed it. Can you tell me more about it? And then I'd always follow up with it with a nice long conversation about like, yeah, it has these ingredients, but tell me about what you guys do. Like, what's your strategy, and tell me about what you guys are doing over the next year or two, because most brands are looking to expand. They get to this point where they've sold the barbells and the weights and the kettlebells and the dumbbells. And so they're always saying, well, how else can we make money? And if we can help them make more money, then that's what they want. So a lot of the conversation was really revolved around like, not how can we make money, but how can we ship you something that's going to move quickly, that's a consumable, meaning people buy it multiple times. You buy one barbell, you're done, right? You have one barbell, two barbells, and then you're kind of done for a while. You don't need 74 barbells, Nick. I don't care how big a gym is.
Right.
You do need a lot of chalk, right? Because you're going to use it, you're going to reuse it. So for them, we talked to them and we said, look, this is a consumable. Right now you sell bumper plates and you sell weights, and that's a one-time purchase. So after that person buys from you, a month later, what do you say to them? Nothing. Except now you have chalk. So now you can follow up and say, hey, we've got this new product. A month after that, are you done with that product? Buy some more, right? And so once that light bulb comes on in their head, a lot of people say, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I never thought of that before. I didn't really think about things that way. And so, and again, like you're putting that in a position where you say, like, you guys make money. The more money they make, the more money we make, right?
It's I believe, I think it was in How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I believe he was talking about the win-win-win at one point. And it was like, the consumer wins, that company wins, and now your company wins. Everybody wins there. And there's why would there be any bad blood? Why wouldn't everybody want to continue doing business the way we've been doing it? Because everybody just won.
Yeah. And it's hard to articulate that to most people. There's always some defensive walls. You know this, if you've ever approached people from the gas station story that you told me the other day, you can approach people with a very innocent mindset and just say, hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about your business, find out what you're doing, find out about your brand strategy. I love your Instagram. Your website's amazing. I hear a lot of great things about you. And they go, I don't want to talk to you. And they slam the phone. You go, all right, man,
yeah.
I don't know why you have that mentality, but some people are always going to shut you down. But the majority of the time, if you approach people with a really innocent, truly innocent mindset, saying like, I just want to find out if there's a way that we can help you out, people are very receptive to it.
Yeah. Genuinely caring, genuinely being a decent human being. That's going to get you more wins than anything.
Yeah.
So I got a final question for you here. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you were 18, 19 years old?
Oh, that's a really tough question. Well, of course, when I was 18 years old, I was a knucklehead like the rest of these guys, staying out late, partying. I went to the biggest party school in the South. And, my life revolved around one thing, and that was having fun. And I regret a lot of those years, mostly because I feel like they weren't spent on something for my legacy, meaning that there was no tangible good being done. It was all self-seeking, right? So it was about where's the next party, the next hangout, the next adventure. When I was 20, I guess I was 25, I made so much money in sales that I retired and backpacked through South America twice and New Zealand once. So I went through Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. I went to Brazil for Carnival, the world's largest party. And then I went to New Zealand. And during those partying, traveling, adventuring years, they were the funnest things I'd ever done in my life. But then you get back and you realize they really didn't help anybody, right? So it was great for me. I have lots of good memories, but it didn't really help the world, and it didn't really do anything long term as far as helping people. Age brings wisdom. Now that I'm 40 years old, I have a lot more wisdom than I did when I was 18 years old. So at 18, I would probably, the context though is that when a 40-year-old tells an 18-year-old something, they go, it's only because you're old, man.
Yeah.
My dad telling me, don't do that. Oh, Dad, you're so old, you'd have done it if you'd had the chance, right? I have the chance to do it. So I'm going to take that chance. But this is what I would tell myself. I don't think I would take my own advice, because at 18 years old, I don't think that I was wise enough, or I was probably just too selfish at the time to take my advice now. But what I would say now is that devote your life to something that has meaning and purpose. Family is a big one, but that's not the ultimate purpose for me. My wife and I decided a few years ago that we wanted to be missionaries to the people in North Georgia, so in our county. So every decision we make, that's our mission, that's our purpose. And so we're missionaries, and we're very devoted to our church. We're very devoted to bringing the gospel to people in our place, our community. And I feel like that has eternal consequences. If you don't believe in the Bible, you're not a disciple of Jesus Christ. You think it's all a bunch of baloney and it's silly. But if you do believe in that, there's nothing more important than that. And right before Jesus ascended to heaven, if you believe in Jesus, and we do, he said, go make disciples of all nations. So he told every single person that's a believer, this is what your job is. You're here on earth for one reason and one reason only: not to raise a family, not to be nice to people, not to grow a business and make money. All of those things pass away, right? When you die and you go to wherever you go, no one remembers the house, the car, the good times, the adventures, how much they bench press. No one remembers how much power and respect and all of that nonsense. The only thing that matters is where you go and what the rest of eternity looks like. So we believe that our mission and our goal in life is to do that. When I was 18 years old, it's the farthest thing from my mind. So it's amazing how things change.
But do you think that doing any of that stuff before kind of led you to where you are now, or was it kind of just a wash?
Let me tell you this. It's much easier to relate to people when you've done so many things. I have, if I ever had a biography, the name of my biography would be The Blessed Life, or The Grace-Filled Life. And that's because I look at my entire life. I've lived the wildest, most adventurous life of anybody I've ever met. And I've seen documentaries on some pretty wild guys, but nobody can touch the amount of experiences that I've had in my life, good and bad. And because of that, though, I meet people. I have this innate quality that someone has blessed me with, that God has blessed me with. And that is, everywhere I go, people come up and want to talk to me. So I'm at Walmart, and then someone will come up to me and they just start talking to me. And I'm just looking at this person going, I have no idea who this person is. And they're talking and they're talking. I'm going, oh my gosh, like 30 minutes later. And I'm like, I'm at Walmart and I have like milk and eggs in my hand.
And 4 kids.
And they're just talking. Yeah. And I'm going, and I tell Haley, my wife, all the time, I go, babe, I can't go a day without someone coming up to me and talking to me. It's just the craziest thing. And they always tell me about their life and their story and their family and all this. And I'm just going, I have no idea who this person is. And because of that, though,
who you are? I mean, I noticed like the Spider Talk Instagram, you're not really the face of the brand, like I didn't know for the longest time until we started talking. So they don't even know,
nope.
Right?
Nope. Yeah, we're completely anonymous at Spider Talk. I do that on purpose because I don't want people to know where we live and be around my kids. There's a lot of weird people out there.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know why it is, man. And it's been that way since I was young. I remember going out to the bars when I was in college, and people would come up to me and they'd just start talking to me, and they would buy me drinks. And I'm thinking, what's this guy want? Like, what's his deal? Why is he buying me a beer? And people just want to talk to somebody. And for some reason I have a face that says like, come talk to me.
I think that goes into kind of what we were saying a little bit earlier too, because I experienced that, maybe not to that magnitude, but I experienced that too. But I keep my head up when I'm walking around and I'm smiling and I make eye contact with everybody, and everybody that walks by, I just say, hey, how are you? And I don't know. I think that's how you can make a very positive influence on your community.
Right. And I'm very like that. I mean, I have the confidence that when I walk around, I look at the other people and I just try to be respectful and say like, hey, how are you? And good morning. And, acknowledge people's presence. But these experiences that I've had, the trips that I've taken, all the crazy jobs that I've had, and all the things I've done, when I talk to people, someone says, oh man, and I'm just having the hardest time right now. My son's doing drugs and all this. And I said, well, I had a period where I did a lot of that kind of stuff. And look at me now, like I came out of it. It was a good learning experience. So, and then I'll tell these people, look, I can relate to that in that I was the son You know, I was a very good boy. I got great grades, and then all of a sudden I went through these periods where I started messing around. And so they go, oh, I can't believe that. You know, like I wish my son would turn out. I said, well, let's pray about it. Let's talk about it. You know, and so anytime I meet someone, they talk about how they hunt. Well, I hunt. I play sports. I play sports. I love reading books. I like reading books. You know, there's nothing. I like traveling. I love traveling. You know, so all these people say, well, I like doing this and I like doing that, and I'm really into this. I go, yeah, me too. Like I love all of those things. You know,
And it
people
makes
that love eating.
conversation
I like
easy.
eating. You know, it does. And having all of these experiences has really helped me relate to these people. And it's very rare. The only people that I have trouble relating to are like extreme introverts, and that's always been a problem. You know, they tend to sit around. They're not very motivated. They're very internal, meaning like they want to be alone a lot of the times, you know. And I've heard from introverts that like when they're around people, it's like pulling energy out of them. And then when they get alone, it's like recharging their batteries. And so they tend to want to be alone a lot. And I sometimes I look at them and I go, wow. They go, you know, can you relate to that? And I'm just going, not really.
Not even a little bit.
Nope. Strike out on that one, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm kind of similar in that I've had some experiences for being young still. I think I've had some experiences where everybody I talk to, I'm kind of like, oh yeah. I know what you're talking about here, or at least bits and pieces, enough to have a conversation. I always say I'm an expert at pretty much nothing, but I know a lot about, or I know a little about a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hey
And I'll tell
man.
you, like your 20s, now that I look back at my 20s, it was very experimental, meaning like you feel like you know so much in your 20s, and I had so much confidence because I'd been successful at things I had done. But now I look back and I just go, wow, man, like that guy was so confused. He really was. And it's not because I wasn't intelligent. It's because I didn't have the time, you know, meaning like I hadn't progressed. The learning, the wisdom and the understanding and the confidence and all of that just takes time. There's no way to rush it. There really isn't. There's no 25-year-old that has the wisdom of a 45-year-old. There's just not. Like I don't care what, you can go to boot camp and, you know, become a Marine and, you know, all that stuff, but like you just can't get it. The only way to get that wisdom and that understanding is just through time. And so there's no way to fast forward that button, you know. At least I believe that.
I think the one thing that I would argue to that is loss or major trauma. You know, that was one thing that I learned. I lost a lot of friends when I was young to suicides and in a car accident. And I was 15 to 18, all three of them. We were very close, all of them. And it was one of those things where I was, what is going on right now? You know, and that was something that really, that made me grow up a lot faster. And I actually ended up hearing as I was growing up, like, hey, you're really mature for your age. And the only thing I could ever think of was that, like, that led me to pretty much grow up faster and where I am now. So,
yeah.
Well, hey man, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have any last words?
No. Other than if you're interested in buying some spider chalk, you can go to our website, spiderchalk.com. We ship from here and we ship really quickly. If you get on Amazon, we're having trouble right now with Amazon being in stock. We're constantly fighting Amazon to keep our stuff in stock. So I'd rather you go to our website, get it there instead of Amazon, so you don't have to worry about it being out of stock. Yeah, that's it.
And the Instagram is also just at Spider Chalk.
Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time on our Instagram. We're just too busy. You know? I'll get on there for like 5 minutes a day, upload whatever picture I can find real quick, and then that's it. That's like the extent of my effort on Instagram. We're just so busy with everything else that, you know, I don't allocate time towards that.
Awesome. Well, I'll also I'll put the link in the YouTube description too for people that want to watch this on YouTube. I'll put the link to your website there. So hey, thank you again so much. This was a lot of fun, and everybody, thank you for listening. Until next time.
Yeah, man.